and welcome to Much Ado About Rugby episode 9, where we chat about everything rugby. I'm back again with my two friends Macci and Mal, and today we have a very special guest. It's our first pro rugby player special. Welcome, Ruaridh McConnochie.
Insert crowd clap.
How are you, Rory? How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Good, thanks. It's good to be here on the pod.
Yeah, we're
the biggest podcast in rugby.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you want to try to start off? Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, awesome. So to start off with, just really quick 30 seconds, could you just, in a nutshell, talk about your rugby career from schoolboy rugby all the way through to you now, really quickly? 30 seconds.
Yeah, 30 seconds, right. So I started off age of sort of 7 or 8 at London Scottish Rugby Club. Me and my family used to live in London. We moved down to Kent, where I joined Cranbrook Rugby Club and then later Cranbrook School at the age of 14, where I was there till 18 years old. Left school but stayed part of the club until about, I think the last game I played was about 20 or 21 years of age. After that, I finished school, did a year out in New Zealand where I was a teaching assistant, but also played a bit of rugby on the side. But my goal out there was literally just to do sort of gap student roles and be able to travel New Zealand and Australia at the same time. From that, I came back, went to University of Gloucester, where I spent 4 years there. Again, didn't go there for the rugby, sort of went there as I knew it had a good teaching college at the end of it, and that was my goal at the time, becoming a teacher. So ended up playing for the uni for 3 or 4 years, playing for a club called Nuneaton, just north of Coventry for a couple seasons. And then in my last year at uni, played for Hartpury RFC, which is their National One Saturday side. And sort of throughout my uni career, managed to get a few trials with England students and Great Britain Sevens, Great Britain University Sevens, where lucky enough got scouted for England Sevens and managed to get a trial in my last year at uni with the Sevens. And basically with about 2 months to go before I finished my degree, got a contract offer. So ended up going along with the Sevens, managing to travel the world for 3 years, which was incredible, seeing all these sites and places that you never think you'd be able to visit, and it was part of my job, which was even better. And along that time, managed to get involved with Team GB, and was lucky enough to go to the Rio Olympics in 2016. And then in 2018, made the transition from Sevens to 15s, where I joined Bath Rugby, and have been here for the last 2 years, and also managed to get to a World Cup with England at the same time.
You speak so modestly, Rory. Well, exactly. It must be one of the most interesting stories in rugby for sure, and one of the most interesting routes. And we're going to start off from the beginning. Cranbrook School Rugby, as some of you frequent listeners might know, myself, Mal and Ed all went to Cranbrook School. So we're really lucky to have Rory as an alumni, which is really great for us to see. And we like to think we've followed you all the way through, Rory, since your Sevens days and all the way up. So we wanted to ask you, who would you say from Cranbrook are your biggest influences? And perhaps if you have some of your best memories or most pertinent memories from your time at Cranbrook, if you could maybe share them.
So I'd say probably, biggest influence on rugby would be 2 people at Cranbrook School. It would be Alex Presnell, who was he was never actually my coach. He did like game sessions on a Wednesday or Monday, whenever it was, but he was my housemaster from year 10 up till year 13 in Rammel. So he had a massive influence. And also Nick Martin, who you guys wouldn't have met, left I think in my year when we were leaving, and he was our under 14s coach when I first joined, but by the end of it he was first team coach. And both of those guys massively helped my rugby career.
So did Nick sort of, you went through up the school almost like with him then? Yeah.
So he was always pretty much our coach. He would have been our coach on a game session year 9, year 10, and then sixth form, year 11, we had Alex Cruz. who sort of brought in the sort of mental toughness side. I just remember us being beasted, just so many fitness sessions, and it probably helped us massively because until then we weren't the biggest, we weren't the strongest, but like he sort of just changed it. It was less rugby, more just grueling hard work, which was good.
Talking to Prez about your team, obviously, because he did duties in Cornwallis, which was my boarding house and Mal's boarding house, just before we left. He did duty. So talking to him, he said that your first team was by no means the biggest. Like it was apparently just Big Dave that was kind of the size in the team. So how come you guys were like so good despite not having the biggest team?
I guess my last 2 years at Cranbrook, I'd still argue, I don't know what the records are now, but I'd still argue probably the two strongest years the school has had in terms of first team and maybe second and third team. I think our second and third team, I think, almost went unbeaten as well throughout the season. It was just one of those groups of years that it clicked for in our last 2 years. I remember in year 9, 10, 11, we were definitely not the most successful side. Like in year 10, honestly, we were getting beaten by 50, 60 points most games, and we just assumed we weren't that good. And then like we were definitely like late growers. Like I think year 11, we actually started to play pretty well and sort of realised that actually these kids that we played at 14 that looked like men actually weren't that big, and we'd sort of caught up with them by the time we were 16. And then as it went to first team level, I think our first year when we were in year 12 gave us massive confidence. Like we as you said, we definitely weren't the biggest team, but we had some serious wheels out wide. We had Amari Caro.
Oh yeah,
you might have heard about.
Professional rugby league player, isn't he?
Yeah. So played rugby league, played in the Super League, like won Super League fastest man. I think in his second year there, which is like a hell of an achievement. And he was sort of running in the 10 seconds for 100 meters at schoolboy level on grass. So it's like it just makes a huge difference. And he was physical. So like I remember our first game, I'm pretty sure he scored about 7 tries against Duke Yorks in our first game year of sixth form. And it was like, it was suddenly like all this work that we'd done year 9, 10, 11, and then went on a New Zealand tour in 2008. We came back and everything we spoke about was targeting that first game back. And literally, team of Duke Yorks, who we'd lost to in my year in year 9 and 10, we ended up beating like 94-0 in our first game in sixth form. We were like, what the heck? We were just thinking like, what has happened here? Like, it was probably the first time that we thought actually we are good enough to beat most teams. And yeah, we ended up going on, and I think we lost 1 in the regular season that year, and same the year after.
Who were the best players that you played personally at schoolboy level? Did you play anyone particularly famous or?
Played against or played?
Yeah,
played
against.
Played against. So me and a guy called Rob Horsell Turner were lucky enough in our final year to play. It wasn't for Kent itself, but it was like a Kent select side against Whitgift in their sort of like warm up for the Daily Mail, and they had their team was honestly ridiculous for schoolboy level. I think they had a guy called George Merrick, who's now who was Harlequin second row, is now playing in Claremont. Yeah. They had Elliot Daly playing at centre for them. They had Marlon Yard on one wing, and then a guy who was like a schoolboy nightmare back then with a guy called Lawrence Okoye, who went on to be GB Discus, and he's like 6'7", 18 stone on the wing, and you're just like, well, what am I going to do against him? Like I'm halfway through puberty here, and he's
so you won. So you won.
Yeah, we lost about 50 odd points to 5, I think.
Did you get the try?
I did not, definitely not. I had a torrid game that game.
So who in that first 15 from Cranbrook, do you still speak to a lot of them? Obviously, we know you still speak to Big Dave, but has it been sort of like a case of keeping in contact a lot, or?
Yeah, really? You know, I'm still in a WhatsApp group with, I think it's 10 or 11 of us from school that were good mates. And from that team in there's obviously Dave, Rob, a guy called Angus Furno, who was a centre, a guy called Duncan Ovens, who was also a centre. I guess they're the main guys from those team, from that team. But then I'll keep in touch with a lot of guys like Henry Comey, Tom Blakesy was our captain. So yeah, quite a few from that side. We actually still keep in touch. Like obviously not like close mates because everyone does their own thing in life and stuff. But like I'm happy to say that I've got a good 10 years, almost 11 years later, got a good Cranbrook group of mates still. Yeah.
That's really nice, to be fair. And another thing on Cranbrook, so in episode 4, we actually spoke about our favourite Cranbrook memories, and we spoke quite a bit about Alex Presnell, and some of the funny stuff he comes out with. So are there any things that sort of you think back to, particularly funny things, maybe to do with Alex Presnell, that he did or said, or things that happened?
Yeah, Prez. There's so many one-liners. That's the thing.
Yeah.
He's still posting them on Facebook though. If you're friends with him on Facebook, you occasionally get the odd one-liner. It's great.
I don't go on Facebook that much, but when I do, I will see something from Prez just pop up. I'm like, oh my god! And I can read, and you read it in his voice as well, which makes it even funnier. I remember a few times. I think we were doing that inter-house basketball or something, and he always used to brag that he's like, if you do the layup correctly, you'll never miss it. And he was like, I've done 18 years, I've never missed a layup. One session, he did it and missed, and everyone was like, then we're going to do something. Literally, he like someone said it, and he just batted it off with such confidence. We're like, oh yeah, we're wrong. Sorry, Prez.
That's brilliant. That's so funny. Yeah, we can definitely relate to that with some of our stories. If you should listen back to episode 4, Rory, I think you find it quite funny.
Yeah. That's a good one.
But yeah, and also, so you actually came back to Cranbrook after you won the silver medal, if you remember, and you did a training session with our team. And we all sort of had our pictures of you, that silver medal. Little did we know that you'd go on and play in the World Cup. I think Mal's got a little funny story about you and Cornwallis.
Oh yeah, just like when I think, because obviously when you were playing sevens, even then we thought of you as like a big like idol. Like I remember even us watching you on TV. I think it was like the one standout try with, I don't know if you remember it, where it was like I think it was semi-final or something against France, I think, and it was last play, and I got put all the way out to your wing, and it was just a sprint down the line. You just gassed the man. I remember us just getting so gassed that. But yeah, so when obviously you came into Cornwallis, I think like me and Ed would be gassed. I think Ed would just come down, like he'd be like, it's Rory's here, and then he'd like go get a rugby ball, like see if you want to like pass it around.
Do you remember that? Rory? I was like, Rory, pass!
Yeah, do you remember that at all? Because I actually remember it quite clearly. Embarrassing. But no, I also
think Dave might have mentioned that actually.
Yeah, I also I did actually send a little Instagram direct. I commented on an Instagram post of yours, I think, because Dan Norton had commented on it, and I think I made some sort of sly comment about stepping him and breaking his ankles or something like that. And he actually replied, so I was pretty gassed about that as well. But,
yeah, Dave came in and was like, Rory's just messaged me, why he's trying to start beef with Dan Norton.
We've been told never to engage in online trolls and stuff, so I'm not sure.
I'm not a troll. I'm a good mate of yours now,
like a thumbs up or something.
That's so funny. Okay, so now sort of moving slightly away from Cranbrook, we want to talk a bit more about your time at Bath. I mean, in particular, your transition from sevens to 15s. So what we've heard a lot of interviews. We haven't really heard that much about, like, why did you want to transfer from sevens to 15s? Was it sort of a lifestyle thing, or was it more so that you sort of felt like you'd done all there was in sevens? Why did you really want to make that transition?
I guess it definitely wouldn't be a lifestyle thing, because I can't really compare playing in Dubai or Cape Town over in December
so
to
luxurious.
playing at the Rec in the cold wind and rain. it wouldn't be a lifestyle thing. I guess, yeah, it was more the opportunities that could happen in 15s that I'd never tried before. So I was obviously never part of any academy and stuff. So I didn't really know what professional 15 setup was like. It was all from hearsay and listening to what other people spoke about. And I was honest with my coaches the year before I left the Sevens, just saying like I wanted to try and get, as my season goal, I wanted to try and get a 15s contract offer. And it wasn't the fact that I desperately just wanted to go to 15s. It had to be right. It had to be the right club and for me to actually want to make the move, because like the Sevens, obviously I spoke about the lifestyle was incredible, being able to travel the world, living in that part of London was really cool. And then just the uniqueness of the group was something that I just don't think it's replicated anywhere else. I think because you're in such a small group of 16 people, and 13 of you will travel around to different tournaments each year. You become so close, and you just don't get that anywhere else. And like still really good mates with most of them. And that, I think that was the biggest thing that was stopping me from wanting to move, because I was like, well, what's the point? Like it's incredible here. Why do I want to leave this? But it was that big what if I finished my career at Sevens and retired, I would have had something in the back of my head thinking like, could you have tried 15s? Like, would you have been good enough? And if I wasn't good enough, then it was still something I wanted to try, and left on really good terms with the whole England staff and management. So they'd more than hopefully have taken me back if things hadn't worked out. But yeah, very, very happy that I did make the leap. And I'd love to say I was batting off loads of clubs, but it was literally the only the only club that
really
offered me anything.
No
So
way.
and luckily I knew a few people here and knew how lovely it was and nice town it was. So it was an easy decision in the end.
Did you have like an agent or something that sort of just like reached out to all the clubs, and then it was just Bath?
Pretty much. Like at most, like 99% of players will have agents that they're close with and stuff. So yeah, basically, my job was to keep trying to play as well as I possibly could for the Sevens, and his job was to keep just talking to different clubs. And luckily, as I said, one of the people I knew at Bath was the old England and Team GB analyst. So he could clip my videos without me having to try and make one of those highlight reels and stuff. And he already had the footage on his database. So he's like, right, I can just show it straight to the head coach and stuff. So
and they obviously went like, oh, this guy's got it. Yeah. he's snapping ankles left and right. So
yeah, this guy can hold a tackle bag for you.
That's hilarious. Go on, Ed.
I was just going to ask. So you said that you're still in touch with quite a lot of the Sevens boys. Like, who would you say you're like really good mates out of that lot?
Probably closest, with a guy called AJ Davis, Alex Davis.
Yeah.
He's in Bristol at the moment. That's where he's from originally, and so I've caught up with a couple of walks with him. Dan
Social
Norton,
distancing, I hope.
Obviously. Dan Norton, Tom Mitchell, Rich the Carpentier.
All the big names then.
Yeah, all the big names. Keep in touch with them loads, and it's just helpful with the Sevens. They're all, I think it's easy to say, oh, it's a no dickheads policy and stuff, but it was like if you have one sort of bad rotten apple, it becomes toxic in a team that travels and lives together for almost 6 months a year. So like they are all just genuinely good blokes.
Yeah.
And how did you find the transfer? Because I know you sort of just mentioned about the lifestyle of Sevens, obviously hugely different. So how did you find the change in lifestyle? I mean, like mentally and physically.
Yeah, it's mentally it was more about once I started actually playing, like the first few months, like it was more about just learning the game, and I assume that would be the case for the first year or so. But it sort of fast forwarded a bit, and and then sort of in November I started to play more regularly and play for the first team, and that was a big wake up call in how you go weekend to weekend sort of thing, Saturday to Saturday, and have to like build up all week for this game and then completely flip the switch on Monday and go for the next game, which obviously in the sevens you build up for a tournament over sort of 3 weeks, and then you play the tournament, and it's six games across 2 days, and you don't really have time to think about it whilst it's all about prepping for one team for the whole week for 15s, and just basically getting your body in the right shape to go again the next week. And that was a bit of a wake up call. And then obviously the weather, like I think my first team debut was actually in a nice day against Worcester at the Rec, and then I played the week after away at Newcastle, and like it was sideways rain. It was like 2 degrees, and I was like a cold Friday night, and it was literally the week that boys were getting ready to go out to Dubai with the sevens, and I was like, what am I doing?
I think I was at that Worcester game at the Rec.
Oh,
I went there
really?
because my flatmate supports Worcester, and I could see you running up and down the touchline. I was like, oh, go on, Rory, go on the pitch. And I was so gassed.
Regretting his life decisions.
Mal, do you remember that game that we went to see at the Rec against Saracens?
Yeah. It was us three and then a couple other guys we had. I think we all had like a couple drinks. There's a funny story from that, to be fair, because we all obviously you started that game, so we all wanted to try get down to the touchline at the end of the game, to try like say hi or something like that. And I think Ed was definitely had the most to drink. We can say it that way. And he ran straight to the front of the touchline. He actually jumped in front of the cameraman, and the cameraman literally grabbed him and was like, what are you doing? Like grabbed him, pulled him back, and it was just like, what is going on?
I was like, Rory!
I have no recollection of this, so obviously one too many drinks, but yeah.
Cameraman was fuming. I don't know what we expect. I think we were expecting you to stay out on the pitch. It was pouring down with rain, awful conditions.
No tries. I think you touched the ball twice.
Yeah.
How did you get your like start like getting into the first team for Bath? Like, how did that come about?
So I played a few A-League, or it's now called the Premiership Shield games, and sort of did all right in them. Still so raw to like how to play the game and stuff, like just the amount of detail that goes in. And then there was a Premiership Cup, sort of 3 games in a row. I think we played Quins, Newcastle, and Exeter, and like didn't do too badly against them, and sort of have been pushing in training and sort of just naturally learning how to play the game a bit better in training and making a few indents there. And then autumn internationals time was about, Anthony was already injured, Joe got selected, and then Alabru broke his wrist in the last Premiership game before the block, and so suddenly there was like an opening, but it could have been on the bench, could have been like to start. So I managed to get on the bench as sort of a back 3 cover, as Tom Homer had got injured as well. That was another thing.
Jeez, that's a long injury list.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, you look back at it, and I was like, if Joe hadn't been called up, or these guys hadn't been injured, I might not have got a shot at all, and might have literally just never, because you do get it. You get players at clubs who just never seem to get their shot. Like, either the coaches just don't trust them, or the coaches don't want to change the first team for whatever reason. So like, if that hadn't happened, I may never have sort of got that shot, or I would have got it against another team later on and might have had a shocker sort of thing. So it just happened, at a good time, I guess. But then, like, at the same time, I guess you've got to take your chances when you can.
Was it quite nerve-wracking when you did finally like make your debut, or were you kind of like sort of like used to the nerves with, because obviously you've been playing like pro sevens a lot and playing for Bath a bit, you're a bit used to it, or what was it like?
No, you never get used to the nerves. I always still get pretty nervous before matches, even if you're starting or on the bench sort of thing. So I think on the bench it's worse for me. I think because you're sat there and you're waiting and you're like, I could be on now, and then you sort of start double guessing yourself in your head. You're like, do I want to go on? No, the team's going fine. I don't want to play. Like, don't put me on. And then when you're on after 30 seconds, you've forgotten about it. So no, it was good. I remember coming on against Worcester, and actually momentum had swung our way massively just as I was coming on, and so we were on top of them for a good few minutes, and it just made it so much easier. I can only imagine if I'd come on and the first thing they did was put a massive high ball up on me. If I've dropped that, then suddenly it's completely different and changes the whole game and whole feeling behind the game. So sometimes you're lucky. When you get your chance.
Nice.
Sorry,
you know, you go.
I was just going to ask. So who are sort of like your best mates at Bath? Obviously, you've been there a couple of years now. You've had some time. You should be like fully settled in and stuff. And are there any like funny stories from? Well, maybe if you could pick one, I'm sure there's many.
Good mates. Firstly, I'd say like my housemate who I've lived with since coming over here, a guy called Max Clark. Is a top bloke, loose character as well. But yeah, he's very, very good bloke. He's got a good few night out stories. But him, I'd say a guy called it's not the same guy, but another guy called Alex Davis, who helped me massively in my first few months. He's sort of 32, 33 years old almost, and but also does a bit of coaching on the side. So first few months, he just helped me loads after sessions in terms of kicking and just general phase play and stuff. So those two, to be fair, there's a few guys that are good mates. It's very different because a lot of them will grow up in rugby clubs and as in grow up through professional systems, and all they know is rugby mates, and that's what I'm very happy about, that I actually had quite a large part of my life before professional rugby. So I've got good mates from school and university that I sort of probably am closer with, but so it's actually a good out after if I don't want to be thinking about rugby. I'd like chatting with them is perfect. Whilst if you've just got mates in a rugby environment, then you're just rugby non-stop, which I thought used to be cool, but you get a bit, you need your downtime.
Yeah, for sure. You definitely want some balance.
Rory, what's your favourite club in Bath?
Nightclub.
Yeah, come on. Where am I going to see you next year, Rory?
The only place we seem to go is Walcott House.
Walcott House.
Any good, Mackie?
That's like the posh upper class non-studency nightclub. But I'll be sure to be there next year.
Yeah. Try and stay away from the students as much as possible. No, I've done a few nights in that sort of like, we went for a drink in Belushi's and ended up there until like 1 or 2 in the morning playing beer pong with random.
Yeah. Well, is that the pub you normally go to, Belushi's?
No, to be fair, if we are going to a pub, there's so there's so many in Bath, right? Yeah. Literally, it's a different one, different choice. Yeah. Depending what the feeling is.
I'm just trying to track you down for next year. That's what it is. I have a question that might be more personal, but sort of about you moving forward now. Obviously, you've been to the World Cup. What are sort of like your goals for the next couple of seasons? Are you aiming to stay in Bath and carry on going with that, or move away, move to France, go for a money move, or what sort of are your goals?
Honestly, a lot of players will want it, and maybe I'll be different at the time, but the playing overseas part has never really appealed to me. I've still got a few more years left on my Bath contract, so I'm not going anywhere anytime soon, and who knows, at the end of that, I could be 32, 33 years old and no other club might want me. So that might be the time to retire.
We'd want you, Roz.
I might get back to the Cranes, maybe. But no, it's never fully appealed to me. I can see why people want to do that. I think, lucky enough, the fact that I did travel with the Sevens and did have a year out abroad in New Zealand playing, like, I know what I know what it's like playing abroad and stuff, and I've done it almost. Not that I don't want to do it, but I've already done it, so there's no real need to push for that. I think in the next few years, I definitely want. Oh, well, it's easy to say it, but like the club desperately wants silverware, and I think we've got everything in place to do that. It's just small little things that need changing or improving that we can do as a team and get there. And I feel that we've definitely got the ability for it. And then I guess on a personal note, I think going, wanting to get back in that England squad and being around that environment, like the World Cup was incredible. And as a first taster of sort of an international setup, like you kind of have that bar set so high now that you're desperately trying to get back to it. And that, like, definitely agreed that my form post World Cup wasn't good enough to be selected. Like, I was hampered with an injury, and then I wasn't playing well, and that mixed together, it's just like I could foresee myself not getting picked in the Six Nations. So I just want to get a good run of games together for Bath. And if I'm playing well for Bath, then the rest should do its thing. But like, it's probably too difficult to think, right, what do I need to do to get back into England? Like, actually, the focus should be on how can I do best and get Bath winning and help as much as possible for that, and then everything else should just come on top of that.
Well,
how did you feel your games for England actually went? Because was it right that you made your debut against Italy, I think? And I remember we all came around mine and we watched it, and you made that big tackle on like their centre or something, which like made them knock it on or something. But how do you felt your games went?
It honestly it goes so quickly, and that's one thing that I took away from it. I think like, I enjoyed playing with them, enjoyed playing in them, but it was kind of like, because I had an issue at the World Cup in terms of, because you're in that bubble, and a few months before I was so happy just to be training with them and just trying to get through each week and see what happens at the end. If I didn't make the World Cup squad, like, it was no shock. Like, I'd just come into rugby that year. But when you crack into that squad, and then like you start training and playing well, and then you don't sort of play to the best of your ability or don't get the opportunities that you want, suddenly you're thinking like shit, I didn't do enough. Like, I'm not going to be able to do enough to crack into like the starting 23. Like, when we got a back three of Anthony, Johnny and Elliot, like it's some of the best back three players in the world. So you've got to do something sort of above and beyond to try and get into that. And so I almost found myself after each that Italy and the USA game almost a bit pissed off in terms of like, I didn't do anything incredible or like highlight reel stuff that was going to warrant myself being picked. So like, for a few days, like I was really down and pissed off about it. But actually, when you take a step back, you still realize, like, I'm part of an international side. Like, that's incredible as it is. And secondly, I'm part of an international side that's now second best in the world, sort of thing. Like, gets to the World Cup final. Right? It's incredible to be a part of. And I think in the next few years and in the future, I'll definitely become even more proud of it. But at the time, you're so focused about performing and try to do all you can to get into that team, that you kind of lose track of that a bit.
Yeah, for sure. We have, I think we don't want to take up too much of your time. We have one more question. It's a very quick one, right, about the Premiership. Who's going to win the Premiership next season?
Next season or this season?
Next season. I'd place my bets on Bath Rugby, obviously.
Of course.
And your realistic aim? Your realistic aim?
No, we know that in the last couple seasons, and they'll tell you before, like, they feel like they've underachieved and stuff. And you look at last season, we were fifth and a point off fourth place, and we felt we played pretty terribly like that season. And then this year, again, we've had like half of our games, we've like looked at ourselves and thought, like, why are we playing this way and what are we doing to ourselves? And we're still in the top six, and we're like, well, just think how good we could be when we actually flick the switch and actually stay consistent. Then, like, we've definitely got the talent. Like, I still don't know a side that has sort of a back line with the potential that we have, and that's just me looking at that forwards wise. We've got some incredible players and like some international class. Like, so yeah, I think we just need to put a good set of results together, and then we'll get there. Now what are Sarri's going to look like in the champ then?
He's putting it back. I'll see you in a couple of seasons, Rory. Don't you worry.
No, Rory, I think there was just one last thing. You wanted to give a shout out to one of the charities you've been working quite closely with, I think.
Yes. So it's called Shout or giveusashout.org. It's basically an organisation that I've worked with, coming up to 2 years now, where it's basically it's called a crisis text line. So actually a lot of the texts we get in are young people that feel they're in a crisis, and it can be like the high percentage is suicidal thoughts or depression or anxiety. So it's basically a service to give these guys a platform to talk to us. If they don't feel they can talk to someone face to face or over the phone, it's much easier to text in. So if anyone's in a crisis, then people are there 24/7 for them to hopefully help them get through it.
Yeah, well, if you send us a link to that, we'll get some posts going for that as well.
Of course, really
thank you very much for coming on, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure having you.
Thanks, Rory.
Cool.
This has been Much Ado About Rugby, episode 9, Professional Rugby Player Special. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Cheers, guys.
Rugby.